Welcome back to Final Fantasy XIII. So we're in the final dungeon. That it's kind of that it's kind of nonsensical for all the reasons that Jove already explained in the previous part.
Oh, for a second I thought you said the final dungeon that's not Canada.
Like it.
Not Canada, the final dungeon.
This is clearly an hockey stadium, of course.
No, also, Dwebs. Canada is actually an 8-bit place anyway. So
yes.
Yeah, of course.
Where everything is dire.
Can I help you, sirs?
If I recall correctly, these are also fallacy doing the thing.
Avatars of Eden, yes.
Whoop.
But they're not.
Okay.
We're not here to fight.
Again, given that they're fallacy, and technically all the fallacy are working, well, all fallacy and Cocoon are working under Barthandelus, they should be trying to make our way easier.
Yeah.
Well,
Much like the 3 doors in the final dungeon of 8. That's your cue for if you want to go back to Pulse and maybe do some more side quests, maybe grind some stuff, maybe get some more equipment. Maybe from this point on you actually do get to go back, but only to Grand Pulse. You can't go back to other previous areas, unlike Final Fantasy X. So that's the thing. Like I said, aside from Grand Pulse, as well as I think also the road that you explored in Chapter 12, I think. You can go back to those, but you can't go back anywhere else.
That's because they're the only things that have a semblance of, well, you know,
side content.
an area to go back to. Remember, every other level we've been doing has essentially been a hallway that's stimulated for a certain bout of action.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, there's not really much to re-explore with those unless, like, you missed a treasure chest or something.
There you go. This is the road that we explored in Chapter 12, but we're not going to go back there because...
It's more of a case of it's the opposite ends of where you've been on Pulse. One teleport puts you on the Artil Steep, on the other instead at the end of the Urba road, if I recall correctly.
This one, on the other hand... If I remember...
Well, if I recall correctly, you need to go back from where you came, because the entire gimmick about this dungeon is that it's like a giant tube, and you pass through each segment or floor that get recombined quickly, until they actually form the path that you need. Again, on paper, it's actually a pretty interesting concept. This kind of eldritch location. It's just wasted here, but to be fair, like I said, it made it for a good stage in DCL12, so at least there is that.
Basically, the basic goal is that you have to find all of these random fal'Cie that are just fucking with you, and every time you find one of them, they'll move the platform so you can move forward, basically.
Again, why don't they just go, hey, you're the guys we hired to kill us, so we'll take you right to your orphan. Like, I get gameplay story segregation, but I don't know. Like, maybe they could have at least put a thing like Barthandelus is like, oh, here's just a few last tests that will
let me try.
strengthen you before we get there.
Well, let me try. You see, let's see. I like to elaborate my plans unnecessarily complicated for me, because what can I say? I like a good challenge.
Like,
yes, he was very, very bored.
You want to know what's...
But my lord, that's going to cause the major delays.
I am Barthandelus, the lord of the fal'Cie, and I say what is allowed and what isn't.
But sir, we're trying to die as quickly as possible, aren't we?
Yes, okay, to be fair, not necessarily. I mean, if I waited this long, I can wait a couple more minutes, to be fair.
Easy for you to say, us lower fal'Cie want to get it over with.
Well,
okay, it's never actually stated if some fal'Cie believes their existence to be perpetual agony or something. Again, they were just designed to be kind of tools that should be in a symbiotic relationship with the humans, and essentially just outgrown their program.
That's the thing too. That's part of the problem.
The main reason that this plot is happening is because the fal'Cie are apparently so sick of things that they want to die.
Yeah, and that's
not to the point of pain, though. They just see the pointlessness of being.
Yeah, that is true.
But nothing in my thing suggested pain, just that they want to get it over.
Well, it's because you said some of us want to die quickly, so Tail assumed that maybe you meant like they want to die quickly because they're in pain, maybe? I don't know.
Life is pain, I hate.
I am in
No,
misery.
but that's the thing, Tail. That pretty much boils down to the big problem. None of the Fal'Cie, despite being incredibly important to the story, none of the Fal'Cie get zero characterization aside from, and Barthandelus is the closest thing we have is Barthandelus, but his characterization basically amounts to ha, I'm evil, ha.
Keep in mind, the Fal'Cie are technically the main big bads, but we never really get to look into their minds. And mind you, it was supposed to be a big revelation that there's even a Fal'Cie who actually can talk to humans and whatnot, but really only the specific ones can.
The Fal'Cie...
Maybe it's...
The aesthetic of this level reminds me of that level in Shadow the Hedgehog where you go into the internet.
Barthandelus and his Fal'Cie army are, in my opinion, by far the worst Final Fantasy villains ever. They have no character. Each of them is a complete blank who's just there to serve as villains to be taken down.
Even worse.
You want to know what's even worse? You want to know what's even worse, honestly, about them? You can't really get satisfaction in beating them because they want to die.
Here's the thing about Go on.
It's like, even if you kill them, oh, well, that's exactly what they want. So you don't get any satisfaction of them writhing at the fact that their plans have been foiled because, no, we're essentially doing what they want all the same.
Here's the thing about Zan. Remind me, that's from 2, right? 3. Okay, here's the thing, Tail. That game was made in the NES era, okay? It was made in a much simpler time when those kinds of things were much more acceptable. But the series has evolved a lot since Final Fantasy III. This kind of thing shouldn't really be happening anymore.
I understand that, but remember, in the very first game, Garland arguably was kind of outbreaking what they could do with storytelling because it was literally the first villain that you got. And again, even before all the stuff that was added years later and everything, on the very basic NES, they did manage to pull out an entire twist, and a complex type of plot with that. Zang, on the other hand, the problem with 3 is that rather than having a central villain that follows everything, it's a collection of mini stories where you go to a village, you free them, and so on and so forth. And Zande is kind of at the tail end of things, where essentially Joshua says, my life kind of sucks, but I was immortal, and then my master believed it was a great idea to make me immortal, and then out of spite he summoned the Cloud of Darkness.
See, let me put it this way. Okay.
I was about to say, but Tio, Cloud of Darkness is the real big bad of Final Fantasy III to the point where...
a better choice, but hold on.
Cloud of Darkness is as much as the villain of that game as much as Necron is the villain of Final Fantasy IX. It's just like...
Okay, I'll give Cloud of Darkness some credit. I feel like she at least has more personality than Necron. Like, to be fair, there's a reason that she's been used as a representative for Final Fantasy.
Sure. Well,
actually, Jova, the entire reason was just, again, it's kind of hilarious, but it's cute in its own kind of way. The entire reason, because it's applied to kind of the reason why all characters were selected. When it came to the Cloud of Darkness, it was literally just because Nomura saw that Yoshitaka Amano had made an artwork for the character of the Cloud of Darkness in that form that we see in this area, with the red mantle and 2 snakes, but was never kind of used in the game. Every time you fight the Cloud of Darkness, it's just in
the monstrous form.
Monstrous form, green, without the cape and everything. So Nomura thought it was kind of a waste, and like, sure, let's go with them.
Which is fine by me. So, I mean, why not? I mean.
Okay, bring the focus back to this game, though. Like I said, there's no satisfaction in taking down these guys because they want to get taken down. So, like,
yeah.
What satisfaction is there when we beat them?
None. Joe, but this is Final Fantasy 13. You no fun is allowed. But
actually, I'd argue there's some satisfaction.
Oh, really?
The game's nearly over.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
I guess you got me there. Like, it's just.
Ideally, there's also the fact that these characters now know the truth about how kind of pitiful the lack of humans really are under the falsies. So ideally, defeating them would be a sign of trying to free themselves from what they need to focus is find a way to stop them without having to doom Cocoon. The problem is kind of intrinsic in that instance that Orphan is, the pillar of that.
Let me just answer. Look at it this way too, like the fact that Final Fantasy III has the worst villains of the NES trilogy, that in itself is also a good reason why you should try to avoid repeating that. It's one of those cases where it's just like Final Fantasy III kind of dropped the ball on the villains compared to 1 and 2. Well, all the more reason why we should, keep a mental note not to repeat that mistake. It's just one of those things where it's just like, back in, and like I said, 3, again, it was a downgrade from 1 and 2, but it was still acceptable considering the time that game was made. In today's day and age, yeah, like to have these kinds of villains who are so boring, it's just bad storytelling through and through. Go on, Jova.
And again, even with 3, there was at least some satisfaction in taking down the bad guys. And yes, you know what? I get it. Happy ending. We take down the fallacy without humanity having to die. Except, it's not even like the fallacy wanted humanity to die. They're literally just doing this so that, Dad will answer his call.
Reunite with mommy, like Brenda put it. Reuniting with mommy. That's what they want.
So as far as the fallacy care, they don't really care if humanity survives. So again, I guess the satisfaction is that the characters do get a happy ending, and they're no longer tied to the fate of the fallacy. Except it feels a little bit hypocritical because they're still doing the wills of the fallacy.
It's not like they've got any other choice.
Do the wills of the fallacy.
Also, nobody's answering Hope. I think Frank did, but
it's also a problem considering again the fact that the villains are boring, and of course the fact that again remember we're literally almost done with the story. And we have yet to get a proper plan on what exactly we're going to do when Cocoon starts falling. I think I did mention also in the original run, even potentially skimming it, but I get the idea that the characters right now prefer to try to stop Barthandelus without having to tackle Orphan. The problem is that they're essentially falling into a very easy trapping in a sense of, of course Barthandelus is going to lure them towards Orphan without them potentially not even knowing.
And I guess again, the dilemma is as Barthandelus showed, if you don't do it, we can just turn everyone into the sea. Which, let's talk about that. So the fallacy revealed that they don't even really need to mark someone. They can literally just remotely turn everyone into a Lassie. Just like that.
Just like that.
It's more of a case originally, ideally, the originally was supposed to be more of a covered up kind of deal. But as the characters dwindle too much around, they forced Barthandelus' hand on that. And it was kind of like the last resort that he wanted to pull.
But that really just begs the question, why these specific people if he can literally turn anyone? And I do mean anyone,
specific people, not really, because it was more of a chance more than anything. Again, remember, the entire purpose of Sarah was to gather people around, around Anima, so they could be marked. Not necessarily, with specific names on them, just a group of people that Barthandelus needed.
And you know what, I guess, to be fair, he specifically needed a pulse fallacy to brand them, but all the same, this just really raises all the more questions on why the fallacy work this way or that. Also, what's up with those armored soldiers walking around the field?
Alright, occasionally you also had to fight some bosses.
There are various Guardian Corps /soldier /whatever people that are working for the fallacy.
Some of the robots there.
Don't worry, they're not important. So, whatever.
Alright, these are a reference to Alice Through the Mirror, Looking Glass, sorry. The Jabberwocky and the Bandersnatch. Sure.
Yep.
Didn't we fight these guys before in the forest?
Only with different names, these are palette swaps. Again, like I said, not really a bit of a problem to me.
Sure.
And, you know, fighting different same enemies with different colors.
The same strategy applies. Buff yourself, debuff them, and after you're pretty much done with that, especially if you poison them. If you manage to poison them, you've pretty much have the battle won, basically. Because the poison status is really overpowered in this game. The key is to kill at least one of them. If you kill one of them, the other one they can't use their tag team moves, basically.
I forgot if it's best recommended to kill the bigger one or the smaller one first. There is a more efficient kind of strategy, but again,
I managed to get both of them in the air, so they couldn't stop each other. There you go.
Combo. I also kind of realized something in hindsight. Of the entire... Yes, like
yes,
I said, the two monsters were a reference to Alice through the Looking Mirror. Clever, sorry. Kind of in hindsight and without spoiling too much, just on a basic layout in terms of, complexity for Final Dungeon, of the entire trilogy, this is probably the best one.
No big deal.
That's sad.
I mean...
No, I mean, given how bad this game is, that is legit sad when you can factor in how bad the sequel's good.
Again, I don't want to spoil too much also for the sake of waves alone.
If there is one, I can't see it.
I can't do this. All these
Really, Vanille?
We've been killing Thief for hours at this point.
This is kind of a bit late to say that.
That look that Lightning gave.
Lose faith. And the second we give up, it's focused.
Seriously.
I know what we're gonna do today.
Hope was like, but that's what Barthandelus said, and then Lightning looks like, what?
You think about it, having all this empathy, it puts us humans at a big disadvantage.
Maybe. But it's
I see empathy.
That sounded better in the writer's head.
Clearly, that didn't sound nowhere near as cool as the writers think it did.
Time's running short.
So why are you standing there then?
Mine's made up this
Oi,
That
Vanille,
was fast.
Vanille, you bounced back from being depressed about killing Thief pretty quickly.
I get the feeling she has some kind of mental problem, considering the way she behaves, the way like this is not.
Yeah.
This is just weird.
Even
I'm
that,
sorry.
The term they're looking for is
You see-
bipolar.
Either that, or she was meant to have some sort of arc, but that got removed, or it was never in it in the first place.
Yes, she
basic-
does have a mental problem. It's called rushed script.
Yeah, the basic thing with Fang should be that she bottles up her emotions, and only occasionally she actually opens up to say, particularly to Vanille. The problem is that once again this is conveyed poorly.
The basic point is
We
that
kind of already dealt with that when we dealt with her Eidolon too, but whatever.
the basic point is that Vanille and Fang have decided they're just going to live on Cocoon from this point on, considering Pulse is kind of a shithole at this point.
No. I want to live on Pulse, actually. And I feel a lot better there than whatever the hell's going on here, all this overload.
So basically, well, in that case, Dibs, you can just live in Vanille's house and she won't be using it anymore.
Yeah, sure,
I'll give 1 week before Bucky gets trashed.
I'll live there instead. I'll do a much better job keeping it straight than she does anyway.
Oh yeah.
Why
Enjoy
would you
your
want to live in Vanille's house? That sounds like a terrible
So
idea.
so that she can bother somebody else.
Well, have fun with your zombie neighbors.
Yeah, sure, why not? I'll make friends.
It's a little case where the zombie ate my neighbors.
Or
I can get through to them, or go through them.
I can change them, guy. I can change them.
Sure.
That's never a good start.
Yes, it is. I think you quit too much. That sounds like power talk.
Yeah, cool. You guys are such quitters.
Yeah. I didn't know that SCWRM was an acronym for quit.
Yeah, the thought never even crossed your mind, did it? You just decided, oh, yeah, there's no cause for them, we're leaving, bye.
Yeah, just look at Batman with Selena Kyle. He was like, I can fix her. That didn't turn out bad at all.
Yeah, but at least he put in the effort.
I blame the writers.
Okay.
Hey, at least we didn't get a time. It's not like Spider-Man where we got a time skip where Mary Jane and Aunt May are angry at him and Mary Jane settles.
No, can we not, please?
Thanks.
Are you sure you're not talking about Spider-Man?
No, he's talking about the comics-wise.
More specifically, the recent run they just started.
Let's just say there's Marvel Comics hates their fans. That's all you need to know.
And honestly, I mean, it's been a while, obviously, but I get this little suspicion they have no idea what to do with Peter Parker specifically.
They don't.
If you don't know what to do with Peter Parker, just have Miles be the
Because people will get angry if
Well, that's because Miles is in his own comic book line.
Well,
again, it's all about brand name.
Fine. In that case, bring back Spider-Man 2099. Like it's just like.
Like wasn't Peter meant to retire as Spider-Man and Ben Reilly was going to be the next
The Clone Saga. That's the thing, that they were kind of on the right track with that. The problems with the Clone Saga are simply reduced to it took way too long to do anything. The writers did not, at several points, the writers had no idea what was supposed to happen because there was no pre-planning nor coordination among the different parties. So as a result, all sorts of different stuff were thrown in. Potentially all good ideas on paper, but they were just mixed together very poorly. Like one moment, Ben Reilly has to deal with a literal cyber war, where the replacement for Dr. Octopus is trying to make sure that the cyberspace invades reality. Yeah, really. And in the next one, Peter Parker is actually being arrested by a guy that's supposedly an eternal wizard that's trying to study the psychology and understand what exactly makes things wrong with his life.
That sounds very interesting, Teo, but...
When the 90s cartoon took the piss out of it.
That sounds
By the way, in case you're wondering about making Ben Reilly Spider-Man, yeah, they,
Yeah.
well, let's just say he kind of went evil again for a bit here.
Let me. That sounds very. That sounds very. That sounds very interesting, Jova. But did you know that lightning is no one's slave?
Of course.
Who cares?
I think she actually has some other minor lines that get spoken when she uses Armor 1, but that one tends to be repeated the most.
Yeah. Alright.
Basically, to quote the comic, Ben is gone. There is only chasm now.
So basically, for what I could tell, I kind of zoned out for a second. So basically, what I got was Uncle Ben was the cause of this plot.
Okay. How about this?
Ben Reilly.
Let me put it this way, Dwips. Tell me if this sounds like either a good idea or a bad idea to you. Let's make the new status quo in the Spider-Man comics that Mary Jane and Aunt May ate Peter Parker. Does that sound like a good idea to you?
As in, do you mean ate as in they hate him or they eat him up for their tea?
Hate.
Marvel zombies.
Hatred.
Okay. Any reason?
Drama! People like drama, right?
It's the mystery that gets to be that needs to be resolved in the line. We don't know yet.
Well, I mean, okay. I'm going to hold off on that and wait for a reason. If there is one and it's decent enough, then fine. If there isn't one, or if it's a bad reason, then I'll say, yeah, that's stupid.
I would be incredibly impressed.
With Marvel Comics, more often than not, it's a bad idea, or often an idea to try and keep the status quo with Peter Parker, with the idea that he's a loser who can never stay in a stable relationship unless it's with Carly Cooper, goddammit.
Okay.
Go to 24 minutes, Tia.
Okay, thanks. At this point, Peter should just stick with Felicia, and
Yeah, pretty much. I agree.
I got it.
Alright, I'm there.
Alright.
Go on.
We'll get
Hold on.
ready.
And click. Okay, go on.
Hey, don't worry, guys. You can take Gwen's state.
Okay, guys, in regards to dating Felicia, that's a no-go ever since the whole business with the Superior Spider-Man thing. Felicia kind of really had it out for Spidey at some time. They made up, but not to a point where they're gonna be in a relationship.
Alright.
Thanks a lot, Doc Ock.
Alright, one more boss.
Time for the next boss.
Time for the next boss.
Also, yeah.
Thank you.
This final dungeon. You know, that's the thing about this final dungeon. It's not even really exciting. Like, mind you, this should be like the height of the story. Blood pumping with action. Except, no. The tone that they set up for this does not feel all that amazing.
Okay, interestingly enough, out of nowhere you get one of the Undying here, Vladislaus.
Wait, where are we finding the crystallized mutated support version of Doc?
Because reason strips.
Those appendages on his back are just basically there, kind of for show. He uses them in one specific attack, but they're not supposed to be like arms, just, you know, extra minor appendages. We will see attacks using that katana.
Yeah, if I say you're talking about Batman, like, can we talk about something positive?
Oh yeah, like how Sony has learned nothing from Morbius, so they
I said positive.
Come on, please.
I said positive that you go in the corner. I'm just gonna go for the default and say No Way Home was good because Dave mentioned Doc Ock earlier.
Don't say anything about No Way Home since she already hasn't seen it.
I mean, in a general sense.
Sure. He didn't say anything about it anyway.
I can't believe at the end of the movie, Spider-Man something like, you know what? Screw web swinging. I'm gonna go around New York crawling on my hands.
But yeah, also the gimmick with Vladislaus is that his stagger gauge is 999, so you're best to just defeat him, you know, conventionally rather than actually finding a way to stagger him.
And I still got 5 stars.
It's by the handstand man now.
I think there's still one more boss that we need to go through.
Yes. Well, we still have about.
And they've been erased from the game.
Well,
no, again, okay. After you clean one section, this Avatar of Eden essentially teleports you to one location for a boss. You clean that up, and you get transported. And this other Avatar of Eden rearranges the stage so you can progress further.
I swear, it just feels like padding at this point.
It is in a way, but like I said, I kind of like this, at least on a conceptual level. The idea that the dungeon is not something potentially multi-level, but instead it's just one big cylinder, horizontal cylinder, that has its internal component rearranged, kind of like in a way similar to a clock. And you just have to, proceed from the point A to point B. Also, in case you noticed, yes, these Avatar Edens used random falsies to do this. Before there was Carbuncle, and now it's Kujata, but I have no idea why.
They were just feeling random.
You see, Theo, the reason for this is because...
Shut up.
They were bored.
I suppose.
Well, yeah, that's the primary motivation for everything.
This whole plot is happening.
Yeah.
Yeah, people got bored one day and decided, you know what, I'm gonna fuck
Because that's what people. Because that's what people.
society.
Because that's what people want to see in a story: bored characters doing boring things.
Well, I mean.
How's Death Stranding treating you, Pedro?
Yeah, I was gonna say, okay, well, one, Death Stranding, and 2, I mean, to be fair, a good writer can get a good story out of anything.
No, here's the thing. Okay, here's the big thing, Dej. The whole point.
Pedro, I know that there's more context to it. It's just conceptual.
Sure. The whole point. Sam's entire arc is regaining his empathy. That's the whole point. But the point is, okay, let me put it this way. Here's the thing. Unlike that game, this game does not use. This game is unaware of the lack of empathy on part of some of these characters. Like it's not like the lack of empathy is used for purpose, like for the plot. No, it's something that clearly is a result of bad writing on part of them. It's lost on them, literally. It's not like even hell. When people pointed this out to them, they made it a plot point in Lightning Returns, hoping that we're admitting that it's a thing now. Okay, we were cool, I guess. It would be like if let me think of an example. Like, okay, how about this? People complained. People complained about. Try to think of. So I can't think of one. Anyway, we're almost at the boss anyway. So, all right, dude, what you got?
I'm going to again erase you from the game.
No, transport us to this church thingy.
This. Again, this I do remember mentioning Dejimon. Again, this is supposed to be Tiamat, and while the design in itself is fine, calling this one Tiamat is just a mistake. Mostly because what I do like I said, the referencing a past enemy or a boss. The whole gimmick about Tiamat is being a dragon with different types of heads. And while this robot idea does have some elements to recall kind of like of a dragon, it's more in a generic sense rather than being more unique. This is a palette buff after all of the Prodclad anyway. So again, on paper, it's a fine idea to me, but it's just not really feasible for this specific enemy. Other than that, it's just rather easy. If I recall, I do remember that.
Indeed. All right. Basically, just keep pummeling on it after staggering it. It's, again, the same bland shit. Again, this is the big problem with this game. Every boss boils down to the exact same strategy. Stagger, then hit it. Stagger, then hit it. Stagger, then hit it. Like, there's no... Every boss battle in this game blends together because you're doing the exact same shit in every single boss. Like, seriously, you can literally exchange... All these bosses might as well be completely interchangeable. Considering how gameplay-wise they're equal obstacles with no difference whatsoever. All right. I am no one. I am no one. She said it. She said it. She said it, everybody. She said it.
It's over.
Also, thank you for that shot of Fang's ass. But
at least there was the dress covering at that point. Yeah, that's also another interesting thing. Ironically enough, Fang is actually probably one of the more covered characters of the entire game.
Yeah, that reminds me, guys. Guess what? According to the developers, in Lightning, when it comes to all the different outfits that Lightning wears and Lightning returns, their big priority when designing the outfit was making sure that Lightning's ass was never at all visible from any angle in any of the outfits. I'm not kidding, they literally said this publicly in an interview. I don't understand why the developers would even say this, like, publicly. Like,
Again, it's potentially a big thing and point of contention, but that's, I think that's for another time.
Alright, and with that, we have unlocked the gate that takes us to the final saving...
Apple Store?
Chamber.
Sure.
Kinda. If anything, it's kinda ironic, I do remember this specifically. The chamber we are either about to see now, or at the end of this part, or the beginning of the next anyway, is something that the game kind of marketed a lot. We saw actually a lot of posters of the gang just chilling out in that specific location, believe it or not.
And yet it's...
I don't really understand why.
And yet the entire purpose of this room is to serve as the final saving point.
Yeah, and I know, right? Yeah. And as you will see, it's actually structured kind of like of a lounge. Like, if I recall correctly, it even has, like, seats and everything.
Alright, everybody, so...
It really is kind of like a waiting room.
So yeah, and behind that door is the final boss of the game, so we're not gonna do that. Let's first save, and we'll finish the game in the next part. So there you go, yeah, this is kind of like... Yeah, sit down, take a rest if you want.
So this is where the menu screen is from.
Alright, everybody, in the next part we finish the story.
See ya.
Yeah.
See ya.
Bye.
Yeah.